Hello, everyone. Welcome to PCE Final Frontier Podcast. I am Shivangi, your PCE guide at PCE Final Frontier, helping one student at a time. Visit our website www.pceff.com to enroll in our courses today. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the PCE Final Frontier podcast episode. Today, we are going to learn some key differences between physical therapy education in India versus Canada and outline some common struggles international educated or Indian physical therapists face in passing the upcoming CPTE. So, do you know only 42% of Indian trained physical therapists will pass the licensing exam in Canada on their first attempt? Quite shocking number, right? Let's hear about this from Mr. Ravneet Singh, who's going to explain us in more details. And let's make it a point to improve these numbers the next time.
Why do we have only 42% of Indian-trained PTs who are passing their exam in their first attempt? If you're an Indian-trained physiotherapist planning to practice in Canada, the journey is not going to be that easy. In fact, only 42% of the Indian-educated candidates pass the written licensing exam on their first attempt. And for the clinical exam, the first-time pass rate is just 45%. But why is this happening? Why do Indian-trained PTs struggle in Canada's licensing process? So today, I'll break down the major differences between the physiotherapy profession in India and Canada, the challenges that you'll face, and most importantly, how to improve your chances of success. In India, physiotherapy is a growing field, but registration is not mandatory in all states, which leads to variations in training and professional standards. But in Canada, physiotherapy is strictly regulated profession, requiring all practitioners to be licensed by a provincial regulatory college. Additionally, while Indian PTs have strong hands-on skills, Canadian physiotherapy education places much greater emphasis on evidence-based practice, standardized patient management, and clinical reasoning, all of which are tested in licensing exams. Now, let's talk about the biggest challenges for Indian PTs in this whole process. All right, the Indian trained physiotherapists, they face challenges in Canadian licensing process. One of them is low pass rates on the PCE, right? As I said, according to the official data, only 42% of the Indian trained PTs pass the written exam on their first attempt. And in the clinical, it's only about 45% of the first time pass rate. So let's try to understand why does it happen. The Canadian exam format. Now, if you go back to Indian systems, most Indian universities followed a traditional long answer exam formats, where PCE is a multiple choice question which tests clinical reasoning and problem solving rather than just memorization of the content. This means that even if you know the content, you may struggle with the question format, time limits, and decision making process, evidence based practice, and clinical decision making. In India, physiotherapy training is often very hands on, but it may not focus as much as on research based clinical decision making. Versus in Canada, the Canada's exam tests your ability to apply research evidence in clinical scenarios. One of the factors, I don't know if you want to accept this or not, but it's also language. Even if you're very fluent in English, understanding complex medical terminology and especially the patient communication in a high stakes exam setting can be challenging. Misinterpreting even a single word in the multiple choice question can lead to a complete wrong answer and you lose your points, even though you knew what exactly was going on. And another challenge is Canadian healthcare system. Many Indian trained PTs are not familiar with the Canadian healthcare systems. All right, patient expectations, professional ethics, which actually have a very high stake in the exam. Now, how to improve your chances of passing the PCE? Let's talk about the solutions for now. How can you increase your chances of passing the license exam and becoming a successful therapist, a confident therapist in Canada? There are few things that you can start working on. For example, understanding the exam format. Don't just study the content, but study how the exam is structured. Practice multiple choice questions. Practice time management strategies. Developing clinical reasoning skills. Instead of memorizing answers, understand why each option is correct or incorrect. The exam is designed to test your decision making ability, not just your knowledge. Enrolling in PCE Final Frontier course. Many internationally trained PTs fail because they study on their own or they're not supported by their coaching programs. Where Final Frontier, on the other hand, understand the value of money, time, and your mental investment in the PCE. Understanding the Canada's healthcare system. Read about Canadian healthcare policies, physiotherapy guidelines, and professional ethics, which is usually covered under the bridging courses. So, I want you to take it a little bit more seriously when you enroll into a bridging course. Many exam questions are based on real life scenarios, which actually reflect the Canadian system. All right. I know the whole process can be very challenging, but remember, thousands of internationally trained PTs have successfully passed the exam and started their careers in Canada. So, with the right guidance and structured program, you can do it too. Good luck.
So, that was an eye-opening speech. Now, if you are preparing to become a physical therapist in Canada, to practice as a physical therapist in Canada, and if you are with me to improve these numbers, to change these numbers, then enroll with us today. Email us support@pceff.com or sign up on our website and we can make that dream come true. We can make that change happen. Till then, good luck, my friends. Thank you for joining today. Reach out to us at support@pceff.com for any questions. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more content. Have a wonderful week and keep learning.